You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Excited you could join me today on this Total Wellness Tuesday. We're going to explain right now in depth the 4 ways to get better sleep. So a lot of people believe that they either have a sleeping issue because of genetics or their pharmaceutical-based doctor told them that they have higher levels of anxiety or they have depression or they have some reason why they're not able to fall asleep. So the thing is this, is that there's always an underlying root cause. And if we find the underlying root cause, we're able to then rebalance that and the body can go back to normal, right? And a normal state is going to bed a couple hours after the sun goes down and waking up as the sun is rising. That is a normal state. In the rain barrel effect, I talk about this in depth. Basically, we have 2 different parts of the book. One is the circadian rhythm and the other is how to get more rest. And that's rest as we're going through the day, but it's also deeper sleep at night. I always come up against the argument, well, I'm a night owl. I get more energy at night. And I tell people that's true. I'm sure that you do. And we could even lab test for that. And there's a lot of clinicians out there who say, no, this person produces more cortisol at night, which we'll get into, which is why they're more of a night owl. Okay, I would say to that person, that's correct. They are producing more cortisol at night, but here's the deal. They're not a night owl. That's called a dysfunctional diurnal rhythm. And we found that on average, those people who stay up later at night have more of a chance for cardiovascular-based issues. They gain more weight, more of a chance for type 2 diabetes. And they also, on average, and this is done on nurses who work the overnight shift, live 7 years less. So I can tell you, well, that you might feel it's natural to stay up late at night. That is anything but healthy. And that's my job to try to do my best to help correct that. So one other caveat that I'll add in when people do stay up later at night is one of the reasons why they're not living as long, most likely, it's theorized, is that they're producing cortisol for a longer period of time. They're being exposed to more artificial light at inappropriate times, which is when the body should be asleep. And because of that, the body is not producing as much melatonin, which is produced as cortisol drops. And I'll explain that in a moment as well. So when you're not producing enough melatonin, what can happen is that you actually are at greater risk for cancer as well, because we know that melatonin is a powerful hormone that is also considered a powerful anti-cancer hormone too. And you can look that up. I mean, that's an easy thing to look up online as well. So here's what I want to say. The first thing is understanding that the human body, and again, I go in depth if you do want to read this in the rain barrel effect, but I go in depth on how the body lowers cortisol. Essentially, it starts to lower it right after 8 a.m. Now you get that nice spike around 6, 7, 8 a.m., depending on the season, of course. As the light rises, our melatonin starts to go down because of the skin receptors. We can see, light's coming out. Let's start to raise that cortisol. And with that, testosterone has already begun to rise. Thyroid's peaking out actually just after midnight. And then thyroid hormones begin to rise shortly after that, T4, T3, around 4 a.m. So we're getting the surge of hormones by 8 a.m. So if you're not getting up by 7, 8 a.m., you're missing out on a lot of the natural energy. And the body might actually be groggier if you sleep through that. So that was a big thing for me, is learning to get back within my diurnal rhythm, because I truly loved staying up until 1 o'clock in the morning. Like that was just a good time, I felt, for me to go to bed, somewhere around 12:31. And since I didn't have to get into work a little bit later, I figured that was okay for me. But the truth was that was holding me back from actually developing my own natural energy of waking up with the sunlight and going to bed a couple hours after. So as we go through the day, your cortisol around noon is going to be half of that essentially of the morning. And then 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, probably about 60%, half to 60% of that. And then before bed, our cortisol should really be at its lowest, somewhere around 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m. is when cortisol drops out to its lowest. So, of course, that means that we should be in bed by that time. Now, if you're not in bed by that time, here's what happens. By the time 10:30 or so rolls around, I spoke about this on my show, the Ayurvedic times of the day, and I'll try to link that up in the show notes. I'll try to remember that, but that was really working with the Ayurvedic times of the day. It's so important because after 10 p.m., the Pitta time of the day begins to increase. And the Pitta time of the day is a resurgence. It's a transformation. And that's why people get a second wind. I know for me, I was tired somewhere around like 6, 7 o'clock. I could have fallen asleep. But by the time 10 o'clock hit, I was ready. I could stay up now for another couple hours. I could work, but that's not what we want. That is actually the time to already be in bed, hopefully asleep, and allowing them the digestive processes to work on all of the food that's moved through your stomach into the intestines, allowing for the liver to do a lot of detoxification, which is home of Pitta in Ayurveda, and allow the body to essentially detoxify. Like that's the main thing. We're essentially working on catabolism during the day. The body's transforming, it's breaking down, all these things. And then at night, just like outside, the flowers close up and the body goes into a state of anabolism where it's able to build back up the body, build back up the tissues, and remove waste. It's so important that we work with the natural rhythms of the body. Essentially from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., it's get up and go time. And then 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., we're trying to shut things down. I teach this to every single person in my practice, every single person. This will be a big thing, a big topic that I tried to teach this fall as well. But here's the deal. I want everyone to understand this. I want everyone to know this because when we get out of rhythm, I truly believe this. It's when we get out of rhythm and we cannot control stress properly, and that's especially at night, that's when the body starts to really go downhill fast. So for me, in my practice, if you tell me you have fatigue, if you tell me you have hormone issues, PCOS, menopausal-based issues, autoimmune, any of these things, I need to look at first. Hey, do we have 6 hours of do we have 12 hours of uptime and 12 hours of downtime? Or are you someone that kind of pushes the envelope all the way until 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night? And even if you go to bed at 10, do you wake up 2, 3 times during the night? Because that's not normal, which means you're not getting into that deep restorative sleep. So what I want to do is I want to share exactly some of the things that I do in my practice, how I figure out if someone's in a deep sleep, a state of rebuilding, rejuvenation, relaxation. And then if they're not, well, we're going to go about really correcting that right away. Because I want to give people their best shot at recuperating so that they're able to get well, they're able to lose weight. Here's the thing. A lot of people are really misunderstanding the Dr. Bell detox. They think it's about low calorie and they think it's about like not eating the first 2 days. It's anything from that. Like I've done at least a half dozen to a dozen podcasts on how a functional medicine detox works. Please go back. Please listen to that. Because you don't have to do the Dr. Bell detox, but you have to understand a functional medicine detox is not a cleanse. It's not a juice cleanse. I have nothing against those. We actually recommend them. We recommend intestinal cleanses. We recommend a day of juicing, all those things. But that's not what a functional medicine detox is. A functional medicine detox is cleaning house. It's getting inflammation levels lower. It's getting blood sugar levels back to normal. It's resetting hormones. It's all of those things. That's why the body gets healthy. Now, we're doing that on a daily basis by trying to fast from 7 p.m. at night to about 7 in the morning. You can change the 12 hours however you want. But it's by allowing the body to clean house overnight, you're getting this mini detox. You're getting that autophagy to take place where the body, again, is removing toxins. It's killing cancer cells. These things have been already proven through science. We need to take advantage of them. So remember, functional medicine detox is all of these things. And the reason I got on this topic is that you're losing weight not because of a decrease in calories. That's only part of it, meaning that you're allowed to eat whatever you'd like, essentially, in terms of quantity at lunch and dinner. We tell people that to stay satiated. So it's not about calories. And we even have people coming in on like 1,000 calories a day. They do the Dr. Ball detox and they add more calories and they lose weight. And the reason is that it has nothing to do. Listen to my shows. It's not about calories in, calories out. I did a show on that. It's not about calories in. It's not about calories out. You have to understand that the only reason you're not losing weight right now is because of some type of metabolic disturbance, some type of hormonal-based disturbance, some type of cortisol dysregulation. It's some type of cellular metabolic issue, meaning like waste in, waste out, I should say nutrients in, waste out. It's about cell membrane dynamics. Like there's an underlying root cause. When you rebalance that is when you get to lose weight. So what do I always say? A healthy body can't be overweight. So our goal is to get the body healthy. One of the ways that we get the body healthy is to get it in bed for 8 hours a night. That's our goal. 7.5 to 8.5, maybe 7 to 9 hours. If you're more of the endomorphic body type, you're in great health. Well, you might be able to get away with 7. Pitta body type, great health, 8 hours. Vata body type, 8 to 9 hours, okay? People need more sleep when they're trying to recuperate and rejuvenate. If you're sick, when you have pneumonia and bronchitis and viral-based issues, you need more sleep. Why? When you're sleeping, the body shuts down. It's in more of a parasympathetic nervous system as long as you're in a deep sleep, which we'll talk about today. And when you're in that parasympathetic nervous system, that's how the body heals. It does not heal when it's in the sympathetic nervous system or the fight or flight. And believe me, in these Western-based cultures that we live in, there's always something to be stressed about, right? So we have to get ourselves that downtime that our body needs. Okay, let's go through this now. So just 4 ways, right? There's a million ways, but let's go through 4 main ways to get better sleep. The first way is this, is that we have to understand why we're not sleeping properly right now. So if you have difficulty falling asleep, you have to understand that it might be because your nervous system is so ramped up, it's so jazzed that you're not able to literally cool down. I give it the analogy to this. And again, I suffered from deep insomnia till about the age of 25 years old. I didn't know exactly why. I experimented with different things. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it's different. It was when I found out that it was because I could not quiet and again, I move just as my body type is and as my mind is, I move more towards that vata heightened state, right? My body's not pure vata by any means, but my mind moves more towards that. It's always running, it's always going. And so what happens is it leads to more of that fight or flight, more of that central nervous system based dysfunction. And that's essentially one of the reasons I got sick when I was 17, besides a dermatologist putting me on 3,000 capsules of amoxicillin for 3 years, which is completely insane. I was always on go, like literally. And I make the analogy to this. It's like you've got this sports car and you just raced it for 2 hours, basically. You're on the highway and you're just flying. When you turn it off, that thing is still heated up, right? It's almost like it's idling high. It's revved. And it takes a while for it to cool down. Well, one thing is not to get as revved, but the other thing is when you run a hair tissue mineral analysis, you can actually look at your calcium to magnesium ratios. Now, a lot of people don't understand this. A lot of practitioners or doctors don't understand a hair tissue mineral analysis. When you look at calcium, it does not mean the amount of calcium you're taking in. Same with magnesium. Same with any of the electrolytes, calcium, magnesium, sodium, or potassium. When you see a high calcium on a hair tissue mineral analysis, it means a higher level of stress, okay? Higher level, basically, of stress output. It's showing that when the body is under stress, it's using calcium. It's pulling it from wherever, the blood, the bones, muscle tissue, and it's being used to get into that state of fight or flight. Calcium, as you learn in chiropractic school, sometimes they teach it in naturopathic school. The calcium is used by the autonomic nervous system actually in a state of fight or flight or sympathetic nervous system dominance, okay? So what happens though is the way that the body always has natural positive and negative feedback loops. So the great thing is after you're done with the stress, your body will enable magnesium to vasodilate the arteries and capillaries which have been vasoconstricted or tightened, right? So then the body will use magnesium. Well, there's 2 issues with this. One is that we just move from one stressor to another in our society. It's not like we had to run away from being attacked or whatever and we got away and good, we can breathe again. No, that doesn't happen. It's like, okay, deadline, traffic, like all of these super hard workouts, like all of these things are causing more stress. And so it's ramping up or increasing our need for calcium, which is one of the reasons we have so much osteoporosis in this country. That's one of the reasons, not the only reason, one of the reasons. Now, the other issue is this, is that our diet is depleted of magnesium. But the issue is, even if it's depleted of calcium, our bones are a massive storehouse of calcium. You're pretty much not going to really run out of it. Okay, so one of the things, obviously you can run a hair tissue mineral analysis, but one of the things that works phenomenally well in our practice is using full spectrum magnesium during the day. It's essentially 1 capsule, just like for a starter for most people. It's 1 capsule breakfast, 1 capsule lunch, 2 capsules at dinner. Sometimes we use more, especially if the person weighs a lot more or they might have high blood pressure, et cetera, okay? I can't give you specific dosages or recommendations just through a podcast, but I'm just letting you know general recommendations for an adult weighing around 150 pounds. That's typically what we may do. Now at night, we'll use something called magnesium citrate. I'll link all this up in the show notes. Just go to stephencabral.com/865 today. 865 is today's show notes. So what that means is that we use magnesium citrate before bed because one is it gets into the bloodstream very, very quickly. It may not be as well absorbed as a magnesium glycinate or lysate, but it gets right in there. And so it's great before bed. I don't use magnesium citrate during the day, but I would use it before bed, about a half hour before bed, couple hours after a meal because it is alkalizing, especially the magnesium citrate product. It's not ours, but I'm going to link to it in the show notes. And since it's more alkalizing, we wouldn't want to take it with a meal since that would shut down stomach acid. So there's always a method to the madness. So that's going to help people, again, with that ramped up sympathetic nervous system dominance. Again, you can check it on a hair tissue mineral analysis. It won't say calcium. It will say Ca. That's the periodic table code. I can't think of the name for it, but it's on the periodic table. For calcium, it's Ca. Magnesium would be Mg. And you can also look at sodium, which is Na, and potassium, which is K. And the reason why you look at those as well, your sodium to potassium would actually show how long you've been in that state of stress and what level of adrenal-based stress there may be and what your stress response is. So when you're in the alarm stage, you're going to have a 4 high for electrolytes on a hair tissue mineral analysis. And then as you start to get depleted, you'll actually see those drop. I'm not going to go through all of that today because I don't want to turn this into a hair tissue mineral analysis lesson. That will be in level 2 of our certification. For anybody who really, cares about reading labs, that can be that. So easy way to calm down a racing mind before bed. Use magnesium during the day, but you can use the magnesium citrate before bed. That will help people fall asleep faster. I've got 4 things that I'm going to give you today, and I always give you the reason why. I'm not a proponent of ever someone saying, oh, here's a pharmaceutical, tell that person why they're using it. Or here's a nutritional supplement, tell them why they're using it. Like, I'm just a big believer in that, even for nutrition. Like, don't do the keto diet just because everyone's doing it. Do it for a specific reason. Don't do low carb just because someone tells you to do it. Like, why? Why for your body? If you're a Vata body type, those 2 diets are devastating. But if you're an endomorphic body type with blood sugar issues, maybe that's a really good idea, right? Or cancer. Like, what if that's a good idea? But don't do something just to biohack, just to do it. That makes no sense. That's not biohacking at all. That's actually dangerous for the body. Okay. Next up is when someone has what's called an exaggerated hypothalamus pituitary adrenal response. That means that the cortisol levels are staying too high at night. So remember I talked about in the beginning of the show, cortisol should be elevated in the morning, but then actually drop throughout the day to its lowest point right around 9:30 p.m., where hopefully we're tucking ourselves in right around between 9 and 10 p.m. at night. And I know that's not easy for everyone, so look at my shows in the past, where I talked about how to back up your sleep to get into bed earlier just by 15 minutes per week. That will easily allow your body to adjust, but I have a whole show on that, okay? So in my book, I talk about this thing called the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis and why it's so important, because a lot of people are dealing with thyroid issues right now, but really it has to do with the adrenals. The thyroid gets shut down and the thyroid goes into hypothyroidism because the adrenals are so ramped up. And you can test this. Again, always test. I mean, if you're able to. I know not everyone's going to be able to test, so I want to be sensitive about that topic. And that's why I always give you what to do if you can't afford to do the functional medicine lab tests. Okay, so here's the deal. If your cortisol is staying too high later in the day, that will not allow you to actually start to produce melatonin. And if you can't produce melatonin, well, that's your sleep hormone. That's going to be very, very difficult to get into a deep sleep and fall asleep quickly, but also stay asleep. So a lot of people can't stay asleep, and that's because, they're okay with getting into a sleep, like the nervous system shut down, but that cortisol does not stay low enough and their melatonin does not stay high enough to keep them in that deep sleep. So we have an amazing melatonin product. I couldn't use melatonin for many years. Here's why. It left me so groggy in the morning. Couldn't even wake up until like 10 or 11. So I could fall asleep, but I couldn't even wake up. So I didn't want to be walking around all morning like a zombie, especially since I was meeting with clients starting at like 5:36 a.m. So that didn't make any sense. Eventually, I found out there are great brands that allow it to get into your system faster. And then the full melatonin and the half-life only last about 6 hours to 8 hours maximum. So we use a great liquid melatonin right now, and it does not leave you groggy in the morning. It's amazing. Again, it's not an Equilibrium Nutrition product, but you know that Equilibrium Nutrition, or just myself in general, I promote whatever the best is, and I have no interest in creating more products if I don't have to, if there's already a great one. So we're going to link that up in the show notes today. I love the product. I really think it's great. I travel with it when I'm in the West Coast quite a bit for speaking and for interviews and for meetings, and just because there's so many amazing people out there. So whenever I travel, of course, I'm always bringing my melatonin. And if I can't shut that mind off at night and I'm doing what's called the deep sleep protocol, which we'll talk about, I'll use melatonin with that, because melatonin, for me, I find if I use 1 dropper, it's perfect. If I use 2 droppers, it's too much for me. I'll be like really in too deep a sleep. So what I do is I do 1 dropper. If I'm not asleep in 20 minutes, then I'll go back and I'll use more. That's a smart way to use supplements, right? Supplements are used to supplement your body. Supplements are used when your body does not have enough at that moment of what it needs to set it back into balance. That's it, right? That's what a supplement is there for. It supplements your diet. It supplements your life. That's what it means, okay? So that's a great way to do it. Also to lower high cortisol at night. Amazing product. called Adrenal Soothe. 2 to 3 capsules. You can do it just really right after dinner or even with dinner if you want. It contains phosphatidylserine. Amazing product. We've been using that for at least 8 years of my practice, probably more, maybe 10, actually probably 10 years. And the reason is it helps athletes and it helps people get into a deeper sleep. Phosphatidylserine is great for the brain. It's an anti-aging based herbal product. And what else can I say about it? Well, it shuts down cortisol. And so if you have high cortisol at night, it's already been clinically proven to shut down high cortisol. Amazing product called Adrenal Soothe. And you can test your cortisol levels on what's called a thyroid adrenal hormone lab, or you can do it on a just straight adrenal hormone lab. Or one more you can do, actually, if you want to test your melatonin levels, you can actually run a test called the sleep and stress test. And that is a simple urine-based test that will test your cortisol during the day, and it will test your melatonin when you wake up and your melatonin before bed as well. So that's a nice test. I'll link all these up today. That's the sleep and stress test. Definitely an overlooked lab. That's a great one, but really you can honestly get away with, if you want to test your thyroid for metabolic reasons, energy reasons, you can do the thyroid adrenal hormone. If you want to test your adrenals with your testosterone, DHEA, estrogen, progesterone, you can do the adrenal hormone. That also comes with a thyroid as well. And if you just want to test your cortisone and melatonin, you can do that on a sleep stress test. Really, really simple at-home labs to do. All right, so that's for lack of melatonin and high cortisol. One more is imbalanced neurotransmitters. Another reason why people cannot fall asleep at night is a lack of GABA, which is an natural anti-anxiety, and a lack of serotonin. Without those two happy, calming neurotransmitters, the body can't cool down. The body can't relax. It's basically stuck in what's more of the high dopamine and high norepinephrine, okay? Both of those things are great. You need norepinephrine and you need dopamine. Both fantastic. They allow you to have energy and they also allow you to focus. They allow you to have great ambition and great drive in life. So they're all important. But you certainly don't want your drive on overgo, which sometimes my mind is. I definitely produce a lot of dopamine at night. And so what you want to do is you want to just make sure you're balancing that. So that you can test on what's called an organic acids test. You can actually look at your dopamine, your norepinephrine, and your serotonin waste markers. And that will show essentially what's coming out overnight. So you do a urine test, simple urine test in the morning, and you can actually look at those numbers. If your serotonin's off and you, on the organic acids test, you also found yeast overgrowth, fungal overgrowth, and you found maybe some bacterial overgrowth, well, we're going to fix the gut. And then by fixing the gut, we're also then going to allow you to manufacture more serotonin, which 90% of is actually manufactured in your gut. So we'll get to the root cause of that, right? Instead of just supplementing with serotonin, which we don't supplement with serotonin, we would supplement with tryptophan or even 5-hydroxytryptophan, which is 5-HTP. The other thing that you can do is you can actually look at your B vitamins on the organic acids test, because if you don't have enough B vitamins, then you're not going to be able to manufacture serotonin as well, because it moves from tryptophan to 5-hydroxytryptophan, and then it uses vitamin B6, which is called paradoxal 5-phosphate, to actually convert 5-hydroxytryptophan, 5-HTP, to serotonin. So you don't need to know all that biochemistry, but I like to also give you a little bit of it to let you understand that there's a reason why vitamins are so important. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't believe in vitamins. And I just say to them, like, I don't know how you don't believe in vitamins, because there's nothing to believe in. Like, this is how the body works. It's black and white. Like, it's just the way it is. And so you don't have to love vitamins. You don't have to hate vitamins. I look at them as just part of the human body. That's it. I mean, that's honestly, and you could even make an argument, which I don't, but you can make an argument that there's no need for things like curcumin and turmeric and ashwagandha and maca, because those are herbs and the body doesn't run on herbs. But herbs are beautiful things that are used as medicines to help balance the body as well. But the body actually it's essential for B vitamins, right? Because we get disease if we don't have them. So in my line of work, well, just my line of philosophy, I believe in everything. Everything has its time and place. We don't overdose on herbs. We don't overdose on vitamins. We also don't overdose on food. Just because a food is great, we don't overdose on it. So that's how I look at everything. We use it when we need it. So on the organic acids test, you actually get to look at all your B vitamin levels as well. It's an amazing test, really, really amazing. So what if you are low in those? Well, certainly we use a great product. I don't want to name it right now because sometimes our products do change, and they only change because we're able to get them at a better cost for you, the same ingredients, or we are able to maybe upgrade it. Like, that's the bottom line. So I'll put that in the show notes today, but it's an herbal-based formula, and it contains GABA, it contains chamomile, it contains valerian root, right? A lot of those herbs, which also help to calm the body and mind. That's what it's all about, calming the nervous system in the body and calming the mind, which fires up the nervous system as well. So what we really talked about was healing the body on 4 different levels: on a central nervous system level, on a hypothalamus pituitary adrenal level, dealing with, it could be hyperthyroid, high thyroid, but really too much cortisol production from the adrenal cortex. We talked about rebalancing melatonin if it's low. And again, we don't use melatonin forever. We use melatonin for a period of about 2 to 3 weeks, and then we start to taper off. So we go from 1 dropper or maybe 2 down to half that, and then we down to half that, and then we just kind of keep going over the 3 weeks, or after you're done with it, after 3 weeks. We like to get the body back into a rhythm. That's it. So we need to get the body back into a rhythm. And then you can use, so that's melatonin. And then if needed, we can use like the GABA, we can use the chamomile, and we might even use a little 5-HTP before bed as well to produce a little bit more serotonin. Now, keep in mind, you would never use 5-HTP if you are on a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So if you're on an antidepressant, which is an SSRI, you actually can't use elevated levels of B6 because it works so well, right? B vitamins really do work. And you can't use 5-HTP, which would make more serotonin, which can essentially lead to a serotonin overload in the blood per se. So, but the nice thing is, again, if you're on antidepressants, honestly, I don't want to make this an episode on antidepressants, but there's so much that you can do naturally. There really is. I have no problem with people being on an antidepressant when they come to see me, and I don't tell them to stop using it. What I say is, I believe that you and I can help you rebalance your body so that you don't need that antidepressant. That's my belief, but that's, again, like you might say, I always need an antidepressant because everyone in my family was on antidepressants. That's fine. Like, that's your belief. I choose to believe that the body wants to be healthy and that it can be healthy as long as we find out what those deficiencies are with some of these lab tests, and we find out what its toxicities are. And I know that by finding your deficiencies, we can replace those. And I know by finding what your toxicities are, we can remove those. When we do that, we have a happy, healthy body. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into another Cabral Concept. I appreciate each and every one of your listens. I truly do. Thank you so much. Please do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could help. Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice, after seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my Health Results Accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to stevencabral.com/courses.